Okay. Our workshop tonight leader is Townsend WS7I. And I was working on this afternoon, and I realized I could take the whole workshop just describing all of his achievements. But let me mention a few. He was the co-creator of two popular RTTY contests, the RTTY Roundup that we're going to talk about tonight, and the WPX World-wide RTTY contest, which would be the two biggest RTTY contests that I know of. He has a DXCC honor roll on RTTY, which I think that's a pretty amazing thing. He's won just about every RTTY contest I think there ever was. Last year, he received the Spokane DX Service Award, and he is the owner and runs the oldest spotting network in the Northwest, WS7I. And he's a wonderful mentor and coach, and he's been a great blessing to me. And so with that, I will turn it to Jay and let him enlighten us.
Well, thank you, Mel, for the words of wisdom and all your kudos. Well, the RTTY Roundup is, in my opinion, the best contest that there is. It was created by West Coast guys, and it was created so that everyone across the United States could win it. And this has been pretty much borne out over the years. It's been won a number of times from many different places. Europe, Asia, they kind of compete with themselves. They're really what makes the contest interesting, but they don't have as good a chance as winning. It's just the way it was designed. And we'll look at some of the design things that make it that way, which as a West Coast operator, which most of you I see are, it's very important to realize just what those advantages are, and you have to utilize those advantages to make sure that you can be competitive. I've created a bunch of documents. A lot of this stuff is historical. I'm a historian by trade, before I became a computer guy, at least. And so I like history. The first place you start in the roundup is with the rules, and I've included a copy of those rules. And frankly, there's a lot of changes this year, and you need to go over the rules. So, as best I can tell, there are 16 classes of operation that are possible in the roundup. And these, there's 4 multis and 12 single operator classes. And earlier today, we had quite a discussion in the SDXA forum about different things. And John K7KB was spot on. He says, well, they need to make it so these FT4 and FT8 guys can get awards and RTTY guys can get awards. And the truth is there's so much wallpaper available in this contest that it is unbelievable. So every country could have 16 winners. And I don't know how many divisions we have in the ARRL. It escapes me, but there must be 15 or better, I think. Somebody could look that up in QST, but in any case, all those, there could be 16 times however many divisions there are, plaques awarded. So if you don't have a plaque, this is the best chance ever to get a plaque. And they've made a lot of changes since FT4 and FT8 came along, and they're extremely popular modes. And what some people don't realize is the RTTY Roundup, since the very beginning, has included all digital modes. It always has. Nothing new, old deal. So as I look down this list, there's a bunch of QRP categories, which frankly, I think are kind of silly. So I think I'll enter one. And that looks like to me is a pretty good way to, if you've got fairly good antennas, that's a good way to win some a contest category. FT8, there's high power QRP on FT4 and FT8 is great. That'll work really well. Just bruising through these rules, I think that for multi-singles, there's now 10 band changes per hour, clock hour. And that's a little, I think that's a little change. I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked at the rules for a couple of years much, but I think that's one of the changes. So, all right, strategy. This is an interesting contest because it's all about strategy. There's a number of articles in the list. Some are by my good friend Hal, who we co-created this contest, and there's a sidebar of K7IRA, and there's some strategy documents, and we'll look at some of that stuff. The roundup is always thought of as the big rate contest, and that's sort of true. But what wins the contest are multipliers. There are no band multipliers because band multipliers strictly favor the East Coast of the United States or the Caribbean, South America, work in Europe. In fact, I contest from Virginia on a multi operation quite a bit, and you just turn all your antennas to Europe and work Europeans. That's all they do. And I operated once from W1AW on a 15-meter contest, and about 3 times I moved the antenna off of Europe. That was a CQ World-wide contest where every European is 3 points. And the biggest fallacy of all has always been that the East Coast folks claim that the West Coast Asian propaganda, or propagation, I should say, balances the scales. Well, it's, you know, when 10 meters is wide open and you can work 50 million Chinese stations, that might be true, but I've never worked 50 million Chinese stations, and you rarely hear more than some. So that's, as Hal says, the wolves have been telling the sheep the same thing about the shepherd's crock. And that's, Hal's a pretty witty guy, and there's a lot of wit in his writings. So anyway, so it's multipliers. Well, this contest starts at 1800 Zulu. And I can tell you that at 1800 Zulu, most of the East Coast has lost Europe. And the West Coast is firmly still in Europe. And so the equalizer is the West Coast gets 2 shots at European openings on 20 meters and 15 when that band is open. So you have to utilize that at the start of the contest. You have to put your antenna on Europe and work multipliers when you start this contest out. And I oftentimes pick the wrong band to start on. And I'm not sure what to tell you there. It's either, if 15 is open, it's going to be better because it's later opening than 20 on the first day. So, but I've called it wrong a lot of times. Then you get kind of a lousy start. But you work everybody, of course, but you beam Europe. And you have to take, as an individual station, you have to take advantages of your antennas and your band capabilities. And if you got a great 40-meter beam or a 40-meter bobtail, or I mean, if you've got a really good 40 station, then that's going to be a plus. You'll want to spend a lot of time operating there. The other big strategy thing is the break. The break, contrary to all popular opinions, should be 1 6-hour or longer period. Now, they've fiddled with this rule over the years ad infinitum, because, well, what happens if my amplifier breaks in the first hour? Well, you take your spare and you use it, of course. But anyway, the thing was designed, RTTY guys are, you know, it said you could watch TV while you do a RTTY contest. Well, you might watch TV, but you'd never win the RTTY contest. But anyway, this thing, the 6 hours is meant for sleep. And I'll give you a couple examples here. I've included 2 breakdowns of multi-station operations, one of which was WA1PMA and myself doing a contest a number of years ago in, I think, 2007 or 8. And there's another one that Randy and K70X and I did in 2012. And they're quite a bit different, but there's some interesting things. You should, it's kind of like propagation. 28 days ago, from the 2nd of January, you need to know what that propagation was. And if you're on a cluster, you can find that out. Or they used to be in CQ, they had the charts in there. And those were 28-day charts, because you really have to guess what the propagation is going to be. Is 15 going to be open? Is 10 going to be there? Well, 10's been there some, and 15's been fairly decent. So, so you have to make some calls there. The overwhelming strategy of any contest is to keep your fanny in the chair and keep RF going out the antenna. And that's the hardest thing. And again, we're going to look at some of these documents here in a minute. And we'll look at some programs, we'll look at some buffers, and then we have plenty of time for a lot of questions, because I could talk forever. The one thing, there's a few more keys, is that on Saturday night, you need to look at that deep Asia, just as the gray line starts moving through the Northwest. That's when you're going to nail the Hong Kongs, the Indias, all that stuff. That's when you get those stations, the Thailand, Pakistan, the UA0s, UA9s, the BVs, BYs, and they're a couple of hours, and it's about roughly 2345 Zulu to 0015 Zulu. You got a half hour there, and you should be, again, you don't stop either searching and bouncing or running, whichever you like to do, but you need to have your antennas pointed for these openings. And that's one of the things to remember. And that's kind of a DX trick, but it's really a contest trick, because that's when they are. And I've gotten 4 or 5 bolts in the last 20 minutes of a contest. And those are ones that they're big. The other secret in this area is that when bands start closing, then the propagation and the band lengths really shorten up. So if you're needing a Wyoming, a Montana, and for some reason you miss these on Utah, North Dakota, if you miss these, then there's a chance there, especially for the SO2R guys that are running 2 radios, is that band starts closing, it'll shorten way up. And you can work that guy in Oregon on 20 meters, 15 meters. And it's kind of a neat thing, but it's always there. So that's the strategy. And let's look at, first of all, are there any questions? No questions, that's good. All right, let me share my screen. Oh, there it is. That's not my screen. Can I share the whole screen, Mel? Oh. Okay. Let's look at, I've got my my buffers here. This is N1mm. Oops. These are my buffers. I'm going to run these. I'm on a dummy load, so I can practice this, but this is the ones I use for a buffer. K7AR, welcome. So these are the buffers I use. If anybody would like to have them, I can make a copy of them and send them as well. But this. Okay, the first thing you'll notice is that there's no DEs. DE, I don't use CQ Roundup, I just use Roundup. Later in the contest, I'll shorten this.
Jay, it has switched back to the main N1mm screen. It's not showing your macros.
Right, I'm sending, can you see the stuff I'm sending here?
No.
No?
Oh, now I can.
Now you see my macros. That's what I use.
It's only showing us the little N1mm logging window. We're not seeing anything else.
How can I get it to be full screen?
When you shared your screen, there probably were several options, and one of them would have been full screen. One of them is just a window within the screen.
Well, I'm not. How do I get? Oops. I can't even.
You'll have to stop sharing and then share again. Yeah.
Okay. I got this weird collection. I don't see any all.
One of them should be called desktop. Try that one. It's usually in the upper top left.
I got show all windows. Is that?
That may be it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I got advanced, basic, and files. I don't know. This never worked like this last time. And I got you on here for some reason. I don't know why.
Are you on a Windows machine or a Mac?
Windows.
Okay, go to basic and pick the top leftmost one, and that'll probably
The top
do it.
leftmost one is the picture of Mel.
Yep, pick that one. You probably have Zoom full screen.
How's that?
Now, there we go.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. So, oops. So I use inner send messages. So that's my CQ buffer. That's my basic exchange. It's pretty simple. As the contest goes on, I'd probably get rid of one of these WS7Is. Sometimes if I'm working Europeans, I will change this buffer to have where it says N7GCO 599 Washington, Washington. I would send N7GCO again for the Europeans. I also do that for the Japanese stations sometimes because those are longer paths. So those are my basic. I use only two-tone. Sometimes spread is good for going over the pole. And sometimes I'll use two, and I might use flutter on one and spread on another. But I no longer use any of these other. MMTTY's time has come and gone, in my opinion. And the sooner you get rid of it, the easier your life is. So one thing I might mention, if I can ever find it. Oh, that's not where it is. I always forget where I'm not a big N1MM operator. I usually use right log, although I do use this program some. There's a place where you pick an algorithm for highlighting Randy always shows me where it is. Highlighting what makes the highlighting stuff work.
Select settings in that menu.
Select settings.
The top one.
Very first item.
Oh yeah, here it is, right here. The one thing I've had terrible things with these search. I use the master. I update that. I use a call history, and I use log calls, but I don't have it do its own little thing. It's got some weird algorithm that finds this thing here. For one thing, it's just garbage. It just prints too much garbage, and it drives you nuts trying to find the call sign to use. I also, by the way, I don't click on things. I'm not a clicker. I type or I use the insert key. Where that works, and that works as well, except for it's a dupe, but I don't click. I'm not a clicker. I use the insert, which you can set up to grab the call sign, and I just hit insert. So that's sort of all I'm really going to spend much time on, unless there's questions on N1MM that somebody can probably help you with. And I might be able to help you with.
You know, a hint that you gave that I didn't catch till I tried it in the last contest. You know, you can set how wide the two-tone window is, how long it's covering.
yeah.
By making it narrower, you get less garbage.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the two-tone, I'll show you the tiny FSK, which is two-tone. And this is the Morty part of it. This little thing here, this mark polarity, this is where half the people go wrong. If you're upside down and you need to check, this is the most common error of having your tones reversed. And so that's where you set that. And this display width, in fact, I usually use like 550. I don't know how this things seem to change a little bit. Okay, didn't like something there. It's pretty helpful. It tells you when you mess something up. Not sure what I messed up, but maybe it was 595. I don't know. Yeah, apparently so. No. And here, you can change the frequency. And a lot of people do this. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't know what you're doing, 2125 and 2295, especially if you're using packet spots, that means you're going to send them right and they'll come out right. If you go to 1400 and 1570 or something, there's all kinds of, there's ways you can adjust all this stuff, but it's just better not to mess with that so much. So can everybody see this image?
Right, we're seeing a spectrum scope with all of the spots.
Right, this is the guy actually, one of the guys, Andy, that does the tiny FSK stuff, which is part of what's in the Morty software. He decoded all these things by playing this audio stream and decoded all the call signs. And it was actually on top of a QST article back when I used to write the results for QST. I just found it kind of interesting. So okay, let's look at some breakdowns. See if this is going to be right. Okay, this is WA1PMA's 2008 Roundup, and this was a multi-single operation that Wayne and I did, where Wayne ended up, you can read the story, it's all included in the stuff. Wayne ended up doing like 90% of the operation, because I left probably right about here, and I went to watch a basketball game, was intending to come back, and then we had like, I don't know, 18 inches of snow or something, so I never did return. Anyway, I started this contest, and I started it clearly on the wrong band, because when you're doing 37 in the first hour, it means you don't have a great frequency and you're not doing very well. And you can see the third hour, now we own things. And this is the light blue here is 20 meters. And then here we should have gone to 40 meters. And we were kind of late going to 40 meters, and here 40 picks up. And Wayne didn't have anything. It's just a 40-meter wire, so he has no antennas really on 40 of note. Now he had a good wire antenna on 80, and you can tell he had some, Wayne was operating, he had some terrific rate here. At 06:30, we quit, take our 6-hour break, start again at 12:30, which is, this was kind of an early break, and Wayne made the call, and it looks like it worked out pretty well. Then here's 1300, and guess what happens at 1300? Sunrise, and Europe's on 20, and he's got some pretty good rate here. Or no, he's doing 40 here. Now I would have been on 20 in Europe here, but he waited until a little later and still got it. And then he made a really nice move to 15 here, and 15 really popped. Now in this contest, the last hour, you'll note, it's a really good hour. And that's one thing to remember. Some people in the middle to southern part of the country, they like to skip that last hour. That last hour, we're terrific into the East Coast particularly. It just roars, and you've got, let me see, where's my breakdown here? These are all the files. This is a thumb drive.
The one RU212 breakdown.
Yeah, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, this is the contest that Randy and K7OX and I did in 2012. It was actually a kind of interesting effort. We didn't place very well, which I've operated a couple of times from OXs, and this one, it just didn't, it didn't play. I don't know why. We had a great first hour, 76 with 35 mults. It had some good 40-meter stuff here. And one of the reasons we didn't play very good is 13 Qs on 80 meters. That just isn't going to get it done. That was horrible. Then these little breakdowns, this happens to be from Right Log. You'll notice here there's a spectacular 34 minutes when there was no buttonage here. At 1700 Zulu, so prime time, and somebody, I don't know who, didn't have their buttonage here. So either somebody was late showing up, which might have been me, and you'll notice there's 79 hour and a 76 hour, so we lost 50 odd Qs this hour. And again, you'll notice a really good last hour, 80 QSOs. So from this part of the world, that last hour or two is really good. The break came much later. It took at well, basically 0700 to 1300. You can see that's the 6 hours and 10 minutes that was taken off. So it was a different time. There's a bunch of 10 meters. If 10 meters opens at 2100 Zulu, and I don't know what we were working, I don't remember, but it was nice. It was, so that shows you, how do I get back to, how do I, stop share. So we're back. So now I want to talk a little bit about the FT4 and FT8 things. It's like I was telling Mel, I think earlier, FT4 and FT8 are just vastly popular. And for some unknown reason, it seems to have affected some people, which is, hey, it kind of affects me a little. And now they've got enough classes where you can do what you want to do. And it should be fun. Just contesting, you know, if you're going to sit in the chair for 24 hours, which I can barely do anymore myself, it ought to be fun. And it's like, I did, was it last year? I think it was last year. I messed around quite a bit with FT4, and it's a lot of fun. And there was some rare stuff on there I got that you don't get. It just wasn't on. And that's why some of the people are entering some of the unlimited classes so they can get those multipliers. Well,
Can I bring up a point on that?
you bet. Hi, Al.
Good evening, guys. Are you guys okay with how to get the WSJT software to log into N1MM? I can help with that if there's any questions.
Yeah, I haven't had any trouble getting it to log.
When you do that, N1MM is what I call a passive logger. It just sits there and you're doing all the work in WSJT.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I don't, myself, I don't use that combination. So I use write log with DigiWrite, and it's really works well, and it's all integrated. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of resources. So if somebody's having questions, grab Al, and Al's he's got a treasure trove of working FT8, as do some of our other oftentimes speakers and de-expeditioners on.
I'm one of the few people, I'll bet you, in this illustrious group we have, that none of you have operated as a fox.
That's true.
You probably all operated as hounds. I've had the pleasure of operating as a fox on a couple of my trips, and it couldn't be easier. It's very non-stressful. You put stations into a queue, the software works them and pops them out of the queue. It's not like the CW pileup where I'm like this trying to anyway.
That's the same as you do on RTTY contests now.
RTTY is very non-stressful.
Yeah.
For the most part, you get the call sign, the software does all the work. Yeah, it's pretty point and shoot.
Great. Is there anybody else that has a question for Al or me, or JTX question, RTTY question?
Jay got a question. FT8 obviously is highly sensitive. I mean, you can dig stuff out of the noise, but it's slow. FT4, not quite the performance of FT8, but is much faster. Where does RTTY fit in that spectrum?
RTTY is 10 times as fast, at least.
You can work a lot more stations on RTTY than you can in FT4.
Right. How many, what do you average on the expedition on FT8?
In Fox mode, I can easily do a couple hundred an hour, 250 an hour.
Right. But the software author, who, in my humble opinion, you can quote me, feel free to quote me, is, in fact, I was just looking for the article on this. What he does in the Fox mode, we could easily do in the contest mode, but he doesn't like that concept for normal people to use, only the expeditions. Because we could all do the Fox mode and get rates, because but he doesn't like that because he's kind of a purist. Well, software developers should work on writing software, and we'll work on figuring out how the contest works and how to use the tools. It's kind of like SO3 or 4R, and I'm here to tell you it works really good. And SO2R, for years and years, those guys are cheating. Right, well, not really. There are some people that can do that. Some of the greatest operators I know, the Dawn AA5AU comes to mind. You won't even hardly find him calling CQ. He's got 2 radios and he's working these knobs and he's searching and pouncing at 150 an hour. And you're muted, Al. You're muted, Al.
The mouth is going, but nothing's coming out.
Mouth is going, but nothing's coming out.
I was at the DX dinner at Dayton, or it might have been the contesting dinner at Dayton, where they honored AA5AU. What a nice, humble, friendly guy.
Oh yeah, well, I keep trying to get him to, I'm going to get him to one of my seminars one of these days, but he always gets really stressed before a contest that he's entering to win. So I haven't nailed him down, but yeah, he's a good friend. I contest with him a lot. So, so that's the strategy roundup.
I think I was going to respond to Dell. Last year, I did the RTTY roundup using FT4, and I worked it hard. I think I had 450, 500 contacts, but I figured that using RTTY, I could have about doubled it. So I'm doing it RTTY this year just because I think I have a chance of getting a higher score.
Well, it's all about the wallpaper. With 16 categories, it looks like to me we got, I don't know how many people we have on here, but everybody should enter a different category and see how much wallpaper we can bring home. Questions? K7GS, what are you entering?
Probably plain old RTTY, single operator, low power.
All right. So do you have any hints for us, Gary? Gary's done this contest a million times.
Well, not as often as you have, but no, I really don't have any hints. But I think you've hit the nails on the head, especially around. Who's that?
Jay, did you mention to put a space character at the end of each of your macros?
I might not have mentioned it, but there is one.
The space character guarantees, assuming you're being received okay, that you're not going to have any garbage as the last letter of your line.
Right. I used to use carriage returns in front too, and that makes your call sign just pop up in that DX guy's window, but that seems to be a little out of vogue, but I probably still use it in some of the macros. My macros of, for this contest, your macros need to be really short. because mostly you're working as much rate as you can. And as you go to work in Europeans and Asians, they get a little longer. And I have no problem with changing my macros for those periods of time. But the rest of the time, I don't send the guys call twice. Sometimes I don't even send by Sunday, I'm not going to send the stake twice either. The guy will know where you are because he's already worked you if you're working active enough. Now, and that's some of the real advantages of RTTY is you can shorten that stuff up, where in some of the FT modes, they're pretty tight. You sort of have to send what they tell you to send. And that's
I've never sent the other guy's call twice.
no, really?
Yeah.
Well, I do, but you run high power most of the time.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Well, how's your error rate into Europe?
It's okay.
Well,
I have errors. That's
no,
what,
everybody has errors. But no, I mean of the guy copying but you're pretty well known. Some of that helps as well if your call sign is well known. But
Everybody knows Gary.
yeah, everybody knows Girl Scouts. I stole that call from the Girl
that's
Scouts.
where the call came from.
I know. So who else, what classes are people thinking about entering?
Single op, high power.
Pure RTTY, unlimited RTTY, use the cluster?
Yeah, I'll use the cluster. It's sitting here right next to me.
I know, so well, mine's sitting here too, but I don't use the cluster.
Any of you guys are welcome to log into the cluster here. I appear in the drop-down lists for.
It's okay. They all use my cluster, Al.
I generally encourage people to use one in their area or that's close to them.
Well, especially when it's the oldest in the Northwest.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm thinking RTTY QRP is going to be an outstanding way to see if you can. Depends what the conditions are like.
Where from? You're remote?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to have pretty good antennas. I don't think the butternut's going to play that well on 5 watts from my backyard.
I don't think I've ever heard you on your remote.
Yeah, well,
So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm thinking QRP, but you never know. Might go low power. I don't have any high power up there, so either QRP or. And I don't see any reason to use the cluster in this contest. I think that's.
Well, I use it for the band map.
Yeah, well, it does do that.
Yeah.
But I might do unlimited digital too. The QRP, you'd probably do better. I don't know. QRP on digital might, on FT8 might be the way to go. FT8, FT4. So I don't have a great deal else if there's no questions.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
First of all, thanks for presenting. This is really interesting and informative. I really appreciate it. I'm one of those guys that unfortunately, due to geography and neighborhood restrictions, has a better radio than antennas. Any suggestions for us wire antenna guys who are working with doublets and verticals? Thanks.
Well, that's me too, at my home station. I think, well, verticals are really good, contrary to all known things. You waste a lot less time with a vertical. And in this particular contest, I've run 100 watts to my butternut and done pretty well, because one of the problems with Yagis in this contest is if you're trying to work California, you aren't going to work at East Coast, where if you're on a vertical, you get California and the East Coast and Canada all at the same time. And it's sort of the old, well, I work a lot of JA stations, and you can work the East Coast and JAs on that vertical. And from where you are on the coast, you got an advantage of water fairly close by, and that helps. Wires, I've operated wires here. At my remote, the wires are not very good. I have to admit. I ran the salmon run. Now you'd think that with I have a full size 160 meter wire, and you'd think I'd be able to work 40 and 80 meters on this wire. And I can tune it with the tuner and radio, but I never worked a single station in Washington in the whole contest. Not one. And so that kind of, I decided I have some other antennas. And in fact, there's a 40 meter dipole that I built out of some old junk pieces of an element off a high gain 20 meter beam and some ends of a 40 meter that this guy gas axed, and a friend of mine collected up. So that's going up the tower. I mean, I got to do something, because this station, it doesn't play on 40 or 80 at all. Now it's funny, on 80 meters, I work Mars up there, and it works great. But man, I couldn't work a single station in the salmon run. I've never heard of such a thing. So I would have rather done the salmon run from here, but I never, once I start, I don't change. But the verticals, the only problem with the vertical really is you've got to understand propagation. When the band is open, you can work them with the vertical. Oh, they were great. And you don't waste much time, because you can't hear them until you can work them. Once you can hear them on the vertical, you can work them. And that I learned. In fact, the last 3 or 4 countries that I got on ready for the honor roll, I got with the butternut and 150 watts, which is what I run, because I live in a city lot. And I do have a couple of amplifiers now, but I don't like running them. So you can have a good time. I think the digital modes, as far as I can tell, I work tons and tons of FT4 and FT8 using butternut and wires. It's a great equalizer. But I'm here to tell you, 1500 watts works FT8 better than anything. And all those guys that invent these low power modes, that's kind of like in the old days, you just turn on the amplifier, and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't PSK 31. Yeah. Well, these guys are running 3 kilohertz filters, and you put 1500 watts on PSK, and they're going to work you, because they don't want you on the band anymore. You just work. And in the old days, in the RTTY Roundup, in fact, this was the RTTY Roundup, there was some molt on there. And it's like, well, I just waltzed in there with 1500 watts and worked again. And I got all these, you tore up the whole band. I wasn't there very long. I worked him and gone, but that was back when I had real antennas, which I don't anymore. So what do you think you're going to do, FT4 or FT8?
Well, I know last year I found that, you know, on FT4, you obviously can run 4, 5, 6 times faster than you can run an FT8. And
But
it's
were there
easy.
more stations on 4 or 8?
There were about an even number, but I could get a good run for an hour and a half on FT4, where once I got the first call, I just ran from then on.
Excellent. I'm not so sure you shouldn't run FT4 this year.
Well,
But you'll have no problem running them on RTTY either.
Something that I think everybody's going to have to watch is if there are multipliers on a different mode than you're using. Multipliers are the name of the game.
Well, but and that's the other thing that nobody talks about. But if you're doing, let's say you're doing unlimited RTTY, so you're using RTTY in the cluster. Well, if you get tired of doing RTTY in the cluster and you see that there's 5 or 6 multipliers on FT4 that you decide you want to get, you can always move from unlimited RTTY to unlimited mixed. Now you can't move from unlimited mix out. And the same is true from digital. If you get, you know, if you got 120 multipliers in unlimited digital, you can always move up to mix and run some RTTY rate to run your score up. So there's some strategy in picking things there that nobody talks about, but it's always happened in contests. People start in one class and change and end up in another class. And so any other questions, or I'm about ready to tie the ribbon on this thing. Mel doesn't like to keep this more than an hour. He's a stickler on it.
Well, I have one question, Jay.
Okay.
I run right log.
Me too.
Tried MM or whatever it is, N1MM. And I thought it was a little clumsy and in many cases too complicated for an old man that's standard reading. So, but I never started to try to figure out the connection between right log and the FT8, FT4 stuff.
Oh.
So, you know, I guess I downloaded the connections, but I never tried to use it. What's the best way to? Where's the best place to get started?
RTTYcontesting.com, which is Dawn AA5AU's site. And Dawn, the program that hooks into right log is...
it's not available anymore. You have to build your own.
Oh, that's not true at all.
Well, that's what he says.
Oh, no, it's not available from the right log guy at all.
Oh.
It's available on RTTYcontesting.com.
Yeah, well, he told me, well, I was on there last week, and it basically says you have to build it. And of course, once he said that, I kind of shut it off.
Who said that?
Don did.
Oh, no. Hold on.
Anyway.
No, that's okay. Hold on. This is good.
Anybody else use right log?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a second. I'll show you where it is. Right there.
Yeah, that's where I went.
There it is. There's the version. So all you do is click right there.
Okay, well, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Yeah, it's not. And it hooks a lot different than the way N1MM hooks in. And that's,
Well, I don't know about that either, so.
but it tightly integrates into right log. When it's running, when it's running, it's much like running in right log. It just opens a different window. Instead of ready write, it opens digi-write. And so you have to probably play with it for 2 or 3 days to figure it out. But it's pretty neat. Yeah, no, the right log guy, he doesn't send it out.
Oh, okay.
Don has compiled that program from the source code's all available. It's all open source online.
I guess I started in the wrong place, so thanks for getting me started.
Yeah, so that was a good question. So
I was curious, Al, what category are you running in?
I'll do the mixed one with RTTY and FT4, FT8.
Okay. What about Chuck?
You're muted, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do straight RTTY high power with listening to Al's
Cluster?
cluster. Got it. When you get old, those words get out of you.
You still got your 940 on the air?
No, I sold that over to K7ZS, right, Kevin? And I got the K3.
That's a much better radio.
Yeah. That spectrum display, that's light years ahead of what I could do with the 940 and the old Kenwood analog spectrum display. That's behind horse and buggy with those kind of displays.
Yeah, but the 940 gets you more watts per pound.
Takes both hands to lift it.
That's what I meant.
Ed, what category are you going to run?
Hey guys, and thanks so much for hosting this and inviting us. I'll be running the FT modes, single op, unlimited, high power, but not that much high power. But the thing is, in my day in, day out, FT8 and FT4 operating into the wire antennas, right? I have a vertical end fed half wave. If I bump up my power to like 150, 180 watts, maybe 200 tops, right? I find that place where I can actually contact the people can hear me or decode me that I can decode. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
There's an edge right there where I can break that or at least break even. And so just stick with what works for me.
And Bob, what category are you going to run?
Get this thing unmuted. Assuming I get the get Morty working, I'll be in running RTTY, strictly search and pounce, looking for molts. I'm looking for some band fills.
Yep. Way to go. And Dale, are you going to try FT4?
Yeah, for my first rodeo here, I'm going to start with what I know. So I guess I'm a year behind you.
Okay. And Mike, you're running FT8, FT4, right?
Yeah, I'll be doing FT8, FT4, single, unlimited, low power.
Okay. And Jay, WA0WW, I presume you're doing RTTY?
Oh yeah, I definitely could do RTTY and low power. Haven't decided if I'll do the 150 watts or the 100 which radio, but and I'll be unlimited listening to Jay's cluster.
Okay. David, TNT.
Well, I'm in the middle of kind of rebuilding my shack, so if I get one of the radios on the air, it'll probably be FT8.
Okay. Okay. What about BJ, WA7?
I'm still learning the whole contest thing, and so I'll probably try my hand at RTTY. I'm ready.
Okay, good. And Jack, N7?
I haven't fully decided yet, but definitely RTTY, but probably end up mixed.
Okay. And Jim?
I'm probably going to do something a little bit different. RTTY QRP.
Okay. Jay told me he thought you could win the paper with that category.
That's the idea.
And Rosemary? Oh, that's it. And Dale, are you going to run this contest?
You see this? I got this in the mail today.
Oh, good.
And I've got to get some more USB ports. If I was going to run it, and I would love to start getting into especially RTTY type contests again, because I started when Jay started it on the RTTY Roundup years ago. I do RTTY, and I want to get DXCC on RTTY. So that's why I do that.
Okay, good. Well, everybody, I think Jay said it early on, the idea is to have some fun. And I thought those were great strategy ideas about when to work when, who to aim at.
Yep.
So, Jay, we want to thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.